The list of allowances in the manufacturing award definitely covers more than one page. So, adding a random percentage on top of your employees' wages just won't cut it. Now, I know it may seem easy to just pay your employees a small percentage on top of their normal wage to cover the tools that they use and the uniform they wear, but that's not how it works, especially if you don't want to end up being in Fair Work's bad books. So, to help you figure out what you should be paying your staff under the manufacturing award, we've created a 3-part series that covers all of the possible allowances you may need to be paying your staff under that award. At the end of the day, it's your job to stay compliant, so stay tuned and take notes. But before we start, I want to stress the importance of payroll compliance. This video is intended for general guidance. You should always consult with a qualified payroll professional or accountant who can provide you with the tailored advice for your circumstances. Okay, so before we get started on this list, let's look at what allowances actually are. Allowances are an extra payment made to employees who do certain tasks or have a particular skill. For example, they use their own tools at work in unpleasant or dangerous conditions. Under the manufacturing award, the allowances are broken up into 4 categories: all-purpose allowance, other, special rates, transfers, travelling, and working away from the usual place of work. In this video, we're going to have a look at the first 2 categories. So let's jump straight into the first one. If your employee has to use their own tools to get the job done, then you'll have to pay them an allowance. The assumption is that the employee would spend the allowance on replacing their tools from time to time. For a carpenter joiner, shipwright, or boat builder, this allowance is $28.94 per week. And for tradespersons and apprentices, the allowance is $15.29. If an employee sustains damage to those tools during the course of work, they will need to be compensated for the damage. This rule extends to things like spectacles, clothing, and hearing aids. Next, we have the technical computing equipment allowance, which is paid to your employee who is required to use technical computing equipment to perform work of a complex nature. The amount you pay works out to be around $1.19 per hour. The third all-purpose allowance relates to staff who work with chemicals, alkalis, artificial fertiliser, and chemical synthesis processes. These employees are entitled to an additional allowance of 22 cents per hour. If you need one of your employees to be a leading hand, in other words, you need them to be in charge of 3 or more people, they must be paid an additional allowance of $1.51. The fifth allowance has to do with ship repairing. Any employees engaged in ship repairing should be getting paid 46 cents per hour on top of their standard wages. The next couple of allowances are grouped into the other category. The first one applies when you need an employee to use a car to perform their duties. The vehicle allowance works according to the number of kilometres your employee drives. The current amount you'll have to pay is 78 cents per kilometre. The second allowance is for any of your qualified first aiders, and if you expect them to perform first aid duties on a shift. For all employees, you have to pay them 46 cents per hour up to $17.46 per week. Next, we have the meal allowance, which applies if you expect your employee to work overtime, but don't provide them with enough time to prepare a meal. If you can supply them with a good meal, you can do that. But if you don't have the facilities to do so, you'll need to pay them an allowance of $15.01. Most of the time, employees will need to wear protective clothing while at work. If that is the case with your staff, you must reimburse them for the cost of buying protective clothing and any equipment, unless of course you buy it on their behalf. The fifth other allowance relates to manganese dioxide, which is a decolorizer in glass, whiteware, enamels, and pottery. Because it's quite a harmful chemical, you need to compensate your employees for dangerous work. For the first 2 hours of working with this pigment, you'll need to pay an additional $1.96. After that, the rate is $13.92 per day. The last 2 allowances we'll talk about in this video relate to engines, compressors, and oil. Any cleaner, greaser, or oiler working under the supervision of an engine driver should get paid an extra $34.17 per week. Engine drivers, boilers attendants, and firepersons also get paid allowances for attending refrigeration compressors and electric generators and being in charge of a plant. In each instance, the employee should be paid $36.87 per week. If the same employee attends to switchboards with a generating capacity of more than 350 kilowatts, then they should receive an allowance of $11.50 per week. So there you have it, the first few allowances under the manufacturing award. There are a lot more moving parts under this award, so make sure you tune in to the rest of this 3-part video series. Also, you can head over to our website and download our free manufacturing award summary, where we cover all of the conditions minus the jargon. The link is in our bio. See you next time.